Hey guys, today I am working on a French seam for a Viking style apron dress that I'm doing for a reenactment this summer. So I thought I would show you how to do this so you can get this nice beautiful seam. You can see here all the ends are enclosed, so this really lightweight linen that I'm working with won't fray, and it'll make the seam nice and strong so that when I'm running around at the Renaissance Fair this summer it won't tear or come apart. So first thing you want to do goes against all your sewing knowledge. You want to take the wrong side of your fabric, and for this, because the linen is the same on both sides, I'm just using the seam to show me where the wrong side is. And you're going to line that up with your other fabric, and you're going to just stitch a really small seam into the wrong side of your fabric. So get this all matched up here. In this particular dress, I'm starting from the bottom. So let me get that going. Okay, and when I do this seam, I'm making it a super small seam because I'm going to roll this in and put it on the inside of the other seam. So you can see here, hopefully, that I'm really just taking a tiny seam, maybe a 1/4 inch there. You can also do this with a larger seam, and then you can trim it down, especially if your fabric tends to fray a lot. Also, if your material will hold up to it, you could overlock it in this form to even help with the fraying even more, but my overlock machine bit the dust because I use it too much. So I'm going to stitch this seam into here really quickly, and then I will show you the next step. Okay, so I now have stitched the 1/4 inch seam all along the dress, and hopefully you can see it's not letting me turn the camera around here. So you can see that I have a really nice thin seam there. I do up here have some threads that are fraying out. Let's see if you can see that. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take the scissors along here, and I'm just going to trim this down and make sure it's nice and small. And then I'm going to press it and press the seam to one side. So I'll show you that in a second here. So now I have trimmed up those seams so they are nice here. This is horrible camera work here. So they're nice and small, and there's no threads fraying off of them anymore. So now I am going to take this dress, and I'm just going to press the seams to the side of the darker fabric, because I do have this nice natural linen down here, so I can try to do this one-handed here. And when you get to this area here where the gore is in the fabric, it gets a little bit finicky, but if you've been really careful about putting this seam together, then you should have no issues. You'll also notice that I have a previous seam here. This is the outside seam from my previous one, and I've completed the whole French seam before I've gone on to do the next one. If you don't do that, you're going to run into problems. It's going to do some weird stitching stuff here at the corner. So I'm going to finish pressing this, and then I'm going to show you. So once I press it to this side, I will fold the fabric over, and I will press a nice crease in here like this, and then I'm going to go back to the machine and I'm going to stitch a little bit of a wider seam there. So give me I'm going to pause, you guys, so don't give me any time. You'll see this in just a second. I'm going to press this out, and then I'm going to take this back to the machine. Okay, so now the seam is all pressed out, and it has this nice little flat curve. So when you're going to stitch, you're actually going to stitch, let me get down here where you can actually see this better. You're going to stitch here, and this part that's sticking out here, just like on this side, is actually going to be your inside seam. Now you'll see here where I put in the gore. When I press this, this is a little thicker because you have the couple layers of fabric here from the other French seam. So just make sure that you press that really nice and flat. You get that really nice crisp edge on there when you do that, and then you're just going to start and stitch, and this time you want to make sure that you're taking a bigger seam. Okay, see if you can see that. I'm really bad at the camera here. Because what you're going to do is on the inside of this seam, or what will be the outside of your project here, is that seam that you did before when you had the wrong sides together. So now you have this pressed, you have the right sides together, and you're going to make your actual seam. If your seam isn't wide enough, when you open this back up, some of that internal frayable edge here that you've put in the seam is going to stick out, and you're going to have to find a way to trim that off. So you have to be really careful, make sure that first seam is super, super tiny. I usually do 1/4 of an inch, and then when you fold it over, you want this to be, I usually do somewhere around 1/2 inch, so which means you need about a 3/4 inch seam allowance. So you are taking a larger seam allowance here because you're doing this, but it gives you this beautiful finished edge that's not going to fray when you wear this garment, especially with these linens and things that fray easily. So I am going to put that seam in here, and then I will show you the finished product. So again, a seam allowance that is larger than the initial one, enough that you are confident that you will not have that internal seam, that frayable area of the fabric sticking out. So get started here. And I'm going to sew down this, and I'm going to pause it, and I will show you the finished product when I'm done. All right, so I have just finished stitching the seam. I can show you on this side, it's easier to see. And you'll see up here at the gore, I have this really beautiful sort of X because I did iron that down and make sure it was nice and flat before I stitched over it. And it's kind of hard to see with this camera, but the seam does come straight down through the burgundy and into the natural. And then the last step with this would be to iron your seam flat and then iron it towards the darker side of the fabric, as you would do with any other sewing project that you're working on. So that is how you do this beautiful French seam to keep your project from fraying if you're using a woven fabric that has a tendency to do that. Again, you can serge or overlock the inside if you choose to, but this is generally used for fabrics that will not take to that overlock process very well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll see you next time.